Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you another take at this video that's been way too many takes today. Admittedly, I I recorded a video at length. There's a whole hour-long video that you might never see the light of day because I figured I should shut the fuck up and put it down smaller. We're here looking at some more 40k factions, but not win rate, tournament wins, and all this other shenanigans for two reasons. One, I don't want people that come into this channel thinking that I'm just somebody that only looks at win rates and only looks at wins, and that's all it takes to be good, and I only care about things that are good. If I'm being frank, I only really give a shit about the tyrannage at this point. So everything else is just something that I find interesting. And numbers, which are objective, usually can give you a good starting point of where you want to start looking when something catches your attention and can be kind of interesting. So, I want to talk about two factions that got pretty minor changes since the release of their codex. I guess I shouldn't say minor all the way, but they didn't get an entire rewrite like kind of what Custodes kind of had. Not nothing to the level of Guard. They didn't get a new detachment feeling like Astra Militarum, which it worked out for. Um, I want to talk about two that everybody talked about them being the worst faction in the game for such a long time, and then a change happened, and we've accepted that they're no longer the worst, but they still aren't good, right? So my thing is it only the fact that you only need one detachment that's good for this community to just kind of just take it, bite the pillow, and say, all right, fuck it. It's kind of rough, but we're going with it. Those two factions, as you can tell by the tabs, are AdMech and GSC. Because AdMech aren't good. This entire edition, have they won anything? Have we seen any notable list arise out of them beyond Scutari Hunter cohort? I'm going to throw a bunch of tiny shits at you, and they're going to have stealth. It's going to be worse than Green Tide at its prime or Crude Hunting Pack. But you're going to have a hell of a time trying to get through my army because we are a horde army, even though it doesn't make fucking sense. And Gene Stealer Cult, which got a very minor tweak, to which now you don't have to rely on those stupid ass little blips to come back if you can roll your fucking army rule, but instead you can deep strike if it has deep strike. And people found out there's one detachment that actually doesn't suck so fucking bad. So I want to take a look at these two today and kind of this, not a thought experiment, but a brain poke to anybody that's been playing this game for. Actually, anybody that's been playing this game, because I'm coming into this game in this edition, and I kind of need to know and want to know the history of how this ebb and flow goes. And I'm always looking for more opinions and insight on this game because it's very odd that you have a faction 2% overall rep, so very low. We're going with the 2%ers here. Let's just that might be better clear to sort that. Sorry, I should have went with ascending. All right. Let's look at the 2% overall pops and wonder why everybody seems to just accept that they're not the worst anymore. So far so that we're trying to make things like Drukari at 57% win rate sound like they're the bottom faction. Alright, I'm gonna stop memeing on that. But you have AdMech, who hasn't won shit. Right? Let's go to this, okay? The last first place AdMech won was 2 months ago, a week apart from each other. Same person. At a GT, Sausage Party, Exterminatus 9, Sausage Party. That's a hell of a GT name. And Dice Arcade Winter GT. So one person throughout this entire edition has a first place win at a GT for AdMech. So fucking fantastic start. And as you can see, nobody's bringing any of the detachments besides Skitarii Hunter cohort because they all fucking suck. I made an hour-long video going through my ideas and changes and yada yada yada, but I had to dial it back for two reasons. One, I don't know this army that much, so any suggestions that I put out there might not be best. I can only look at from a outsider perspective of just like, man, you all have no way of reducing stratagem cost. You can generate CP, but if you had a way to reduce stratagem cost, that might be better. And I say that I could be missing a data sheet. I didn't see it. Now, if there's something in one of these data sheets where you tell me, no, actually the Skitarii Marshal does, I thought he did. Maybe I'm looking at out-of-date info. Maybe I'm just unable to read. Yeah, if you have that, let me know, but that's a big one. Some of you all's points are ridiculous both ways. I think some of the bigger things need to come down in points. Some of the smaller things need to go up. Just so you don't have to still spend $5,000 to make your army. But, again, I shouldn't keep going on that because I don't know the army. I say all that to say that the army rule is better now. Rad Zone Core, it's probably your second or third best, but it's not good. It's okay. It's not good. Skitarii Hunter Cohort. I don't know why my mouth did that right now, but we're going with it. Skitarii Hunter Cohort is your best one because it's better than the rest. Clearly, if it was that good, there'd be a fucking win here. There'd be some more wins here. We've come close in the last 2 weeks with some more GT reps, but also nobody's playing it because it's crazy that you have 1, 2, 3 people this entire month, one of them being Richard Siegler, who managed fourth with it, which is crazy that, not to like, you know, speak to Richard's performance or anything, but you're telling me a faction specialist that does know the game is getting fourth because of the army's power level? Like, just give Richard something pretty decent, and I'm pretty sure he just clears this shit easy. You have 3 last month. Like, no more than 3 people a month are hopping on to this, really? Is that, we got 4 3 months ago and 1? Like, goodness, this is insane. So, you have the one that's the best. It revolves around battle line, because Skitarii are battle line. Pariah told us that battle line was important. It really isn't, but fuck it. I'll give them the points here and say that maybe that's why Skitarii Hunter Cohort is better than the rest, even though it's not. That's just a bonus point that sometimes you could get an extra point or two or bring them in from reserves a turn earlier. Then you have Datasum Conclave, which is just offensive, really. Why do I want my Cult Mechanicus to have bonuses in the fight phase when they're kind of shit? They will attach to the Electro Priest, Breachers and Destroyers, which those ones are probably your best bet on things that you actually might actually punch something with. Yeah. Cult Mechanicus, don't, and that's the other thing about this. Why there's so many weird micro names and keywords in the AdMech Codex. You have Tech Priest, Cult Mechanicus, uh, Cohort Cybernetica is like Legio. What is it? Legio uh, Cybernetica, right? Okay. Like, I just feel like this is an extreme case of keyword overdose out of GW. And to that extent, like, I said I wouldn't give suggestions anymore because I don't really know what I'm talking about. But if you know, let me know if I'm on the right track of things that are problems with the codex. But this feels like the Orcs Codex to the similar issues that the Orcs are having, in which there's too many keywords and shit's not applying to shit, right? You have all these things with Tech Priest, cool, but then Cult Mechanicus, alright, I can put some of this shit. And then the things that you get out of it are just bullshit, right? The things you're getting are just bullshit. We'll move on from the index and the best one. Thankfully, those were in order. Shout out to maybe Wikipedia. Does it appear like that in the codex? Because I thought codex was supposed to be like alphabetical order of detachments. No. Actually, I don't know. Let's probably open mine and figure that out. But anyway, you have just utter bullshit, right? I'm spending a CP for Feel No Pain 4 against Mortal Wounds. Now, mind you, one of the Tech Priests does give you a 5-up Feel No Pain, or a 4-up if you're using the Priest, the Electro Priest. So I guess they didn't want to repeat that somehow, some way. But really? 4-up? I'm spending a CP for a 4-up against Mortal Wounds? Fuck. A Battle Shock test to possibly get -1 to hit? +1 to wound and melee attack is alright, but again, I'm playing AdMech. Hello? And then the shit just doesn't work. I thought this one, Explore the Mana Pool, had a much better rule than it really does. You're telling me we have shit like Canoptic Court, Chaos Demon's whole game plan is to control parts of the board. We don't talk about Assimilation Swarm. And we don't really talk about the Dark Angels thing. If anything, we're learning that GW, you need to stop tying detachments to objective markers. But you're telling me for the price of an objective marker target, or 1 CP to target 2 of them later on, we have reroll wound rolls of 1? How many units realistically does this apply to at a time? And that's the issue that I'm finding with AdMech. You aren't applying things to a wide enough spread of things to not use just Skitarii Hunter Cohort, which covers most of your units being Skitarii. I think we've made a kerfuffle, and probably the most egregious one is this one, where I say we have a detachment rule that literally is based around giving your army rule to arguably 1 data sheet, right? Because you actually physically can't take the Cybernetica Datasmith without taking the robots, and you're not taking the robots without the Datasmith. So, an entire detachment is dedicated to making 1 unit better. This is the same thing that I have an issue with the Orcs, where we have a Green Tide that is literally just boys. Doesn't apply to Beast Snagger boys, doesn't apply to Ludas, anything with the boys in their name like Storm Boys, no. Just boys. The brand Battle Line boys. Just that one. So this entire detachment is just so your Castellan robots can have the army rule, and most of your stuff applies to literally that data sheet or the AdMech vehicles, which admittedly, the vehicles are okay. I would be fine if you just replaced Legio Cybernetica with Tech Priest, or better yet, because this entire detachment rule is making it so that your entire army can have your army rule. That's all it does. Remove all this bullshit and say 1 AdMech unit. Because it makes no sense that you are dedicating an entire detachment to making 1 thing have your army rule. If you're not going to change this, make it so that all of this bullshit is one AdMech unit. And that'll be the end of my rant on AdMech from a ranting perspective. But now I ask you, players of the AdMech, or the ones that have gone against this Gatari Hunter cohort, because we know you haven't gone against anything else, is that enough? Is that enough? Are 40k players happy enough with just one detachment? Because it seems to fizzle out. Once the buffs came to make it so that your army rule was better, and that more of your army could benefit from the army rule, which was fucking stupid in its own right, it seems like people have just been like, alright, fine, I have my Skitari Hunter cohort is better, so we'll take it. But clearly, it's not the best. It's not winning anything, which I guess not everything has to win to be fun enough to play. But if we've learned anything throughout this edition, is that people don't really like moving 100 plus models. They'll do it because it's really that good, but they don't do it because it's enjoyable. They'll do it because it's good, with Chaos Cold or Green Tide being insane, or Unending Swarm being the only way we were able to win. So you'll do it when it's that good. But when it's not that good, it's not that fun either. So to that point, why aren't AdMech players really trying to ham fist something else? Because while I can look through this and yell about all the detachments and the data sheets, I was going to yell at the data sheets again too, but maybe if you really want the extended cut, the Snyder cut of this video where I rant about AdMech for an hour, maybe we can do that, let me know. But I've always heard that the Cataphren Breachers are the best thing in the AdMech Codex. And it's really sad that I just don't see them. Nobody's bringing them, because what do you bring them in? Do you bring them in the Cohort Cybernetica because technically the Tech Priest can attach to it and then you at least get the benefit of the enhancements? Because I didn't think that the Breachers would not have the vehicle keyword, but would you look at that? They don't. Now, the Ballistari and the Dragoons do. Those are decent units that people do bring. But goodness, do you bring the Breachers into the Explorer the Maniple, where the enhancements are utter bullshit, the stratagems are kind of utter bullshit, but you can re-roll wounds of 1, and you want your Breachers to do damage? So, is that the best way? I don't know. Maybe I'll see. I'll probably hit the good old list makers and see if that's any bit better. That is some Conclave, their cult Mechanicus units themselves without their leader being attached. Maybe you just throw them in Data Some Conclave and benefit from some of this. That's an option. I'll take fights first on a Breacher squad, right? Those are the ones that are better in melee. Destroyers are not. But then you have shit like Mantle of the Nostiarch, right? I assume I said that close. Somebody correct me in the comments. But the Bearer, change the damage characteristic of that attack to 1. So, at worst, right? Let's be realistic. Somebody has a precision attack D3, damage 3, not D3. Damage 3, precision attack to target out my Dominus. Okay. For 15 points, I can take 2 of those attacks because they have 4 wounds. Awesome. But does somebody care that much? Whatever is coming to wipe out my squad with a Tech Priest in it is going to be able to do that, right? If it's by volume of attacks and I have these attached to the Electro Priest, yeah, they're not going to worry about an additional 4 attacks, because that's really what this buys you. You're probably going to, whatever it is, you're going to need 4 wounds to come through and get failed to get rid of the Tech Priest. Because they have 4 wounds, and the attack goes down to 1. But you're also, what, T4? Remember, right? We're like T4, right? And you can't put it on call. Yeah, you're T4. That's not the toughest ask, right? So you have shit like that. Cataphrone Breachers, that could be 5 up, feel no pain, 4 up against mortals, once per battle round, 4 up invulnerable save. I'm sorry, once per battle, 4 up invulnerable save. If you put, was it Dominus, or I think it was Dominus, I'm not going back right now. So there's hope here, is kinda, but increase the AP characteristic by 1 within half range? We can do better than that. And instead of just flat out add 1 to the strength and attack characteristics of melee, if I want to select that at the start of the first battle round, right? I have to charge on top of that, so I don't just get it. I have to have charge. And mind you, the Cataphrone Breachers have a 5-inch move. Cataphrone Destroyers have a 5-inch move. The Electro Priest, who gives a shit, because they're pathetic. You're not. I don't think that you're going to all of a sudden make this a AdMech version of the Black Templar list with 100 bodies that actually do some damage. Doesn't seem like you could do that with this one, but maybe I might be wrong. So your best unit gets absolutely nothing from its best detachment, really, except for maybe spending a CP for 4 up, feel no pain against mortals. And then, hey, on this one, you can make it so that they have a 4 up invulnerable save for 1 CP. That's good for staying alive. Fight on death. Again, how much fighting are we doing that I actually want to fight on death rule? Or hoping they fail a battle shock test in an army that does not benefit from battle shock tests going off. You're not Tyranids, Chaos Demons, or Chaos Knights. You are AdMech. So really, let me close this tab so I shut the fuck up. I ask you, AdMech players, is that good enough for you? It seems like the fire of flames have died down for AdMech players. That with the buffs, they go, alright, at least my Skitarii Hunter cohort is better. The rest of it is just complete bullshit. But the one that was already the best one is a little bit better, so we'll take that. So, is that enough? And then moving on from AdMech, we'll close that out. And we'll go to the next one. That kind of grinds my gears, and this is I'll be fighting on behalf of a friend, I guess, because I don't play GSC. I have a friend that does. But people have realized that Outlander Claw, not too bad. It's even 1. You can even see Ennis of Stat Check talk about how he won a tournament 7-0 with Outlander Claw. And mind you, the change that happened to GSC does not benefit Outlander Claw because they do not have the deep strike ability on the bites and so on. So, a change that kind of got GSC players to, I guess, shut up, doesn't affect the best detachment from a competitive standpoint. And it's weird that even with the change to Astra Militarum, which really affects their army, you see that they've gone up to 5 wins and they are kind of kicking tail right now, right? Even got a healthy amount of 4-0 starts. But that's not enough to get people to try to play Brood Brothers Auxilia, because that rule must not be good enough. We have 1 player that has played played 5 games, and by the looks of it, lost every single one. Like maybe I'm not the brightest, but if there's nothing here, it looks like they went 0-5. Host of Ascension, Index. People aren't even playing Index Hammer because that got changed. Don't know why. You're going to have to ask the YouTubers that focus on GSC what went wrong here. And on that note, I should say I've seen their videos talking about what you can still do with GSC. And to me, my explosion loving brain, I guess I shouldn't say that. That sounds not great outside of context. But my Unga Bunga brain, sure, let's go with that, can understand 2 things about GSC that are appealing. Muscle Beach, demo charges. Biosynctic Brew Surge gives you Muscle Beach. Honestly, I don't understand why we're not just doing demo charges again. I understand they got nerfed, but it looks like they still can clear most of the things that they want to clear amongst everything here. Is it because the detachments don't back them? I don't know, but it worked in Index when that wasn't your detachment rule. It wasn't like, hey, demo charges just win you the game. So if that could win and rival the Index Eldari at the start of 10th, why not more? And I also want to know what people are hoping for there to be with more. GW on that last balanced data slate seemed to have a we know GSC is bad, we'll fix it later, because the codex had just came out. And then the fix later was like a, here's something. And now I'm scared that people aren't talking about GSC anymore enough that GW will go, hey, look, that thing we did that didn't really fix anything, it fixed it enough, because when you look at that, people are winning with GSC. And it doesn't even, the fix does not apply to the thing that people are using to win with GSC, which is Outlander Claw. Which is the one that gives double the OC of GSC mounted, so Jackal Alphas and Atlan Jackals, and vehicle models from your army. Achilles Ridge Runner, Goliath Truck, Goliath Rock Grinder. Double the OC is pretty nice, especially in things that have pretty big squads. In addition, at the end of your command phase, if one or more Atlan Jackals units from your army are within range of an objective marker you control, you get to sticky it. So, you're playing a different version of Green Tide Unending Swarm, in which you are just taking over objectives, which is what you want to do to win in 40k, with things that have pretty decent movement, and hoping you don't get shot enough before you win on points. Is that about it? Now, mind you, the vehicles give you some bulk and some decent punchback. So there's that. But you don't need me to go over why Outlander Claw works. And, I mean, I guess you don't need me to do any of this. But it's interesting that looking at everything from GSC, I went into length about GSC, I want to say a week ago. A couple of videos ago. The weaknesses are apparent. People still can't roll their army rule, because on a 5-up is kinda ridiculous. It's kinda ridiculous. Thankfully, they cleared up that you will get your demo charges back on those reinforcements. But adding 1 to the result if it's the first or second battle round, let's think about how many units will die in the first battle round and tell me why I can't add 2 to the result. Okay? In the first battle round, very few armies are getting to the fight phase. Realistically. And there's quite a few that don't want to in the first round, so they will make it so that your opponent won't either. And then the second battle round, you could argue that's when things will start to die, but why not just, make it 2, 1, or maybe even 3, 2, 1? GSC needs help on having an army rule, which is something that I have come to understand when I talked about Chaos Demons. Rolling 4-ups, if you live and die by it, you are in for some trouble. So with GSC having an army rule in which you need to roll 5-ups outside of the second battle round, and the things that now can just deep strike back in don't apply to your best army, you don't have a consistent way of killing big things because the Benefactus is wildly overcosted and that does not do what it should do. 80 points for lethal hits on a unit, and again, I'll rant about this one more time quickly. Hazardous for 2 shots on 3? Yeah, ignores cover, but it's also a psyker, so anti-psyker weapons hurt it. Hazardous means that if I fail that roll once, I just lose my fucking model. Right? Like, are we understanding this? After a unit shoots or fights, roll 1 hazardous, 1d6 for each hazardous weapon used. For each one, a model equipped with a hazardous weapon suffers 3 mortal wounds that must be allocated to the selected model. So at the chance of 2 shots, I can just straight up lose my fucking model for d6 plus 1 damage. Sure, lethal hits. And sure, once per battle, a 4-up invulnerable save to the squad. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not to the squad. It's even worse. This model has a 4-up invulnerable save. So GSC, you need points. I think. If somebody's going to tell me, like, no, I don't want to be more of a horde, I'm already $3,000 and I have 500 points, that's fair. That is fair. So it's kind of crazy that when it's all said and done and the dust settles, these 2 poor factions of GSC and AdMech who have been touched up still don't have what it takes to play multiple detachments and do well with them. We know that there's 2 wins with Outlander Clausen's Pariah. Not this detachment, but not this codex release, but in Pariah we know that there's 2 GSC wins. But I would like to see GSC players and AdMech keep that fire going so that GW doesn't leave you with shit rules for another year or 2. You deserve better, I think. It's interesting that Black Templars are down here with you all and Space Wolves, even though we know these are kicking ass. And maybe I'll talk about that in another video one day about things that we know are working but apparently don't push over the edge. But for GSC and AdMech, you all need more help, and you need to continue to be loud about it. Hopefully, because I think GW might be forgetting about you, but we'll see when that next balance day slate rolls around. So yeah, tell me what you think, GSC and AdMech players. Tell me what's wrong. Hopefully we can get something to get some eyes on this. I know I don't have the largest audience, but I think some additional eyes are better than no additional eyes. Yeah. If you like the video, like it. Got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.